The World Press Freedom Day.
Yes, we focused on climate. I don't know where the problem is coming from with the climate, but ngenza okulaba nti ennaku zino climate nsonga nkulu nnyo naddala ku nsonga ate ez'enjawulo. So we want to know why the people of ActionAid are also taking interest in climate change. That is why we have Madam Sheilah with us today this morning. Let's just kickstart our program today of the Women's Voice. Let's come back shortly. Madam Sheilah agenda kubuuzaako bulungi nnyo so munnakifumenya akatebe kubanga waali.
Change happens with those who dare to be different.
Kintu ekyo ekiri mu maaso kati ky'oliko kati ng'okikola n'obuvumu, okikola with excellence, okikola n'amaanyi, okikola ng'omanyi ky'oluubirira gye kiri mu maaso. Voice.
It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default.
Women's Voice. Naye kino ekiri mu maaso go kati kikole ng'okikolera ddala. Akadde program The Women's Voice. The Women's Voice.
Okay, oli mu program The Women's Voice era nga olunaku olwaleero nga haba bakugambyeko n'omukyala Sheilah Apiny era nga tugezaho okubeera nga twagala okubeera nga tudisikasinga naddala ku nsonga ezikwatagana ku women involvement in climate change kubanga ekintu kati ekitandise okubeera nga kikwata wansi ne waggulu. Tulaba seasons ne tugaa nti enkuba yandibadde etonnya kati naye ng'omusana mungi ate omugamba omusana mungi ate nga season bagamba ddala. But tukasooke twaniriza omukyala Sheilah. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
We're very happy to see you.
And thank you for hosting me here.
Hope we have some greetings from ActionAid.
Yes, I bring warm greetings from ActionAid International Standard Staff and Management, and they're very happy. And they send us sincere greetings to everybody here.
And to our fans. That is why we are here this morning. The special message is going to be through what you have for us this morning. What is that special thing you prepared for us this morning?
Yes, so one special thing is that first, I'm very privileged to be here as a woman, women and climate change. So that's a very special opportunity for me to be able to speak out there about what's happening around climate change issues, but most importantly, drawing back to women and centering women in the climate change discussion and the discourse. So that's why I'm very happy to come and unpack this. Yes.
Oh,
So, Madam Sheilah, somebody will be there and would want to know. First and foremost, people talk about climate change, people talk about women, but then, of course, women, everybody can literally know that women is a female.
Yeah.
So, somebody will want to know what's about climate and what's.
Okay. So I want to speak to the audience that is out there that that is affected by climate change. But then to avoid us from going into scientific definitions of climate change, because the people that we are targeting with this message are people that less privileged, that do not have the privileges to get information in terms of access, that do not have the privileges to get the formal education system. And these are the people that we need to talk to. And so when we're talking about climate change, one thing that has happened over the years is that the climate concepts, people are coming with very huge concepts and they're not unpacking them for the very last mile person to be part of this process. And so if you just took a study as media, if you just walked with your microphone right now here in the streets of Kampala, if you just passed here and asked people what is climate change, they will not tell you the scientific definition of climate change, but they're able to tell you what they experience. And this is the discussion that we want to have this morning. And so climate change is defined by how I experience it as a person. So it draws back to my individual capacity and ability to be able to explain what I experience. And this is exactly what we want, not the rhetoric, not the science on paper, because the science on paper is only understood by those that speak the language. And so for my grandmother deep in Katakwi, in Karamoja, in Rwenzori, in the Elgon, here in Kampala, deep in Mitana, what is climate change? They will be able to tell you the trend. They will tell you, that in 1996, we had a consistent, weather pattern. The temperatures were this. We knew that in January we are preparing our farmlands because in Feb the rains begin to come in. And then in March we are already weeding because by April we are harvesting. And then there's cessation. There's a period of a bit of sunshine to allow us dry our crops. And then again, we start preparing for the second season because we have two, most of these parts of the country have two planting seasons. And so we are preparing, and we have the beans, we have the maize, we have the cassava planted in the first season because they're short-term crops, but also the cassava for household food security. And then we have this in the second season and we're harvesting, but also we have animals. Okay. We have this water source. We fetch water from the river. We know how to manage when there's a bit of a water logging in your garden. And that is the trend they're going to explain. Okay. And they will tell you that, we knew that when there's this type of bird that is flying over, we know that the dry season is setting. When the winds are blowing south, we know that the dry season is setting in. We know that when there's a rainbow, we are not experiencing a flood. So there are those indigenous early warning systems that our generations lived with, and they're able to tell the trend analysis when it comes to climate change. And that is, for me, the climate change. And so it's just the temperature and weather changes. And change is inevitable in different aspects of life. But then climate change has to be explained from a trend analysis. And so they will be able to tell you that this is how we prepare, this is how we preserve for the next planting season. And I know some of us who still have the privilege to go to the villages, we still see the local traditional ways of preservation, of keeping our crops for the next planting season by putting them up in the kitchen so that the smoke is able to preserve. Those are indigenous and traditional, that's a think tank of knowledge that was helping communities to be able to sustain. And there was a lot of food. They will tell you that when you grow on 1 acre of land, we would get about 14 bags of maize. But then that has not happened from 2020 from 2000. From 1999, we started experiencing more heat waves. We started doing, we started farming, but then the yield were, going down day by day. And then the animals. And then they will tell you that, for example, in the Rwenzori, the glaciers were melting at a very fast rate. So we were experiencing now River Nyamambwa and Mubuku and so on bursting its banks. And then the Elgon will tell you that it is until when we started seeing mudslides and the trouble, the chaos that happens at the slope of Mount Elgon. And then you will start seeing trouble, water coming from Karamoja downstream to Teso. And then you see the challenges in Kampala, in the city. These are things that were not happening 20 years ago, and that is exactly climate change.
Okay, specifically, I don't know which side we are taking, because I believe for whatever happens, there is a positive and negative change, negative effect. I don't know at what angle we are looking at this, because mainly we could look at the negative side of the climate change, and we would love to know before we even look at the effect, what are some of those things that are bringing about the climate change? Perhaps it could be negative, it could be positive. But what are some of those things that are bringing about the climate change? But of course, before we step into that, I believe Orange Chef will take us into a short commercial break, and then we see what we have to do about that. We shall talk about what are people doing, what is not right, what is bringing about the climatic change, and if it is bringing about a negative change, how are we going to mitigate that very issue? Okay, we're coming back shortly, still in the program, the UG Brother Show, Akawowo, eddoboozi ly'abakyala litukyalimu. Tulira munafate nga akazungu katawuse nnyo. Brandon Shafa agenda kudda atumenyemenyemukko aye naffe tusobole okubeera nga tetufiiriddwako mu ngeri amu ate oba endala after nga tumaze okugyawo baka buno katulonje tukwata kuno byo tukyali ffenna.
Freddy
Ana osmosis kiki?
Fredola boss omunene ombede binojo kamala byonna wange gwe kakole asasanya aziwayiwa senkagala tegya msimbi Freddy.
Osmosis leero sirina ssente. mpulayo emitwalo 2 nzijuza akaduuka akange.
Lwaki otawaana okwewola ssente ng'olina MTN Momo? Weesootinge, kozesa MTN Momo app oba nyiga *165 *5# okufuna looni ey'amangu. Lunako looni ekkolera okuva mu ezo ennyingi ze tulina. Nga tuli wamu, tewali kitulema. MTN Momo eruŋŋamizibwa banka enkulu eya Uganda.
Kino kisanyusa. Buli kadde luubiriranga ebyokulya ebiwoomu ebifumbiddwa Fortune Butto, ebyokulya ebisufu ebikussa mu mbeera y'okulya. Fortune Butto alongoseddwa era nassibwamu ekirungo kya vitamini E. Musange mu bipimo eby'enjawulo. Ebijjulo byo bizze ku mutendera omulala. Weefunire Butto akwata ekifo ekisooka mu Uganda ku dduuka ne supamaketi yonna ekulinaanye. Fortune Butto akolebwa ba Bidco Uganda Limited.
The search for Miss Uganda 2024 is on. Get ready to be wowed by the girls' intelligence, charisma, and big dreams. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Find out starting 10th May every Friday to Sunday at 8 p.m. on Makula Chika, exclusively on Star Times. For more details on how to join the competition, visit www.missuganda.co.ug or visit Star Times branches. The show is sponsored by BNA, LMZ, Comfort, Nanjing Hotel, Kira Motors, Sheraton, Uganda Airlines, and lead sponsors, Grace Textiles and U-Home. Miss Uganda 2024, true Ugandan beauty.
Cowboy Speciali osobolera ddala kati okumufuna mu bupaako bwa grams 25, grams 5, grams 10 n'ebikumi 200 awo ku dduuka erikuliraanye. Fumba ebyokulya ebiwoomu ne Cowboy akolebwa aba Bidco Uganda Limited.
24/7 mu mutima gwa Kampala eno ye 97.7 Record FM tusabula hits all day. 24/7 mu mutima gwa Kampala eno ye 97.7 Record FM tusabula hits all day. 24/7 mu mutima gwa Kampala eno ye 97.7 Record FM tusabula hits all day.
My bossy, can I borrow fuel? Biggie money, can I borrow renty? Manager, give me some caloni. Okay, what about 5K?
When you need a loan, you've got MTN Momo. Wesotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165 *5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Omukyala abadde annyonnyola ku climatic change, enkyukakyuka mu ndowooza mu budde. Alina ekintu kyakonyeeko ekya seasons. Ajozi twali tusobola okuteeringa nti jjukira nti January akasana kabadde kaateranga okwaka.
N'Abaganda balinanga emyezi nga bagituuma according weather and climate change. Naye kati esaaza kati otunuulira omwezi ne bakugamba nti gatonya, ogamba ate gatonya ng'ate tegatonya.
Enjuzi tumazeeko wano actually omwezi gwa Kafuumulampawu. Akafuumulampawu actually zibeera nswa naye tetwalaba ku nswa zonna. Tulabyeko kati tuli mu mwezi gwa Mugulansigo. Ssaawa za kakati tulina okubeera nga tugula nsigo okubeera nga tukulatika. Naye ate abakugu batugamba bw'oteekayo ensigo zo ssaawa za kakati oyinza okukajjootuka kubanga tebali certain about engeri enkuba gy'egenda okubeera nga teetonnya. So munnange y'ensonga lwaki tuli wano twogera ku nkyukakyuka y'obudde n'enteebereza y'obudde etandise okukyukakyuka. Oyinza okwebuuza lwaki tufokasinga wano kubanga erina engeri gy'egenda okuaffectingamu obulamu bwaffe, specifically olunaku olwali tutundidde engeri gy'agenda okuaffectingamu obulamu bw'abakyala. That is why twagala shortly Madam Sheilah will drive us into what are some of those things that we are doing that are bringing about the climatic change, and of course what are some of those effects before we step into why we are talking about climatic change ku nsonga ey'abakyala. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. Just very quickly, that there are several causes of climate change, but primarily is fossil fuels that generate greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
And so these fossil fuels, just to break it down so that everybody is able to understand, fossil fuels such as gasoline, okay, for driving a car, or coal for heating a building. And then there's also clearing land and forests that releases carbon dioxide. Okay, and then there is landfills for garbage as another source, and then energy, the industry, the agriculture sector, and waste disposal among the major emitters.
You know, sometimes what surprises me a lot, Brandon,
Mm.
you know, to more developing country,
Mm.
we can't deny the fact that we are in a developing country.
Yes.
Naye ate simanyi lwaki ate ffe tuyinza okuba nga ate climate change etukosezza nnyo ng'ate oyinza okwesanga nti mulimu ensi nnyingi ezirina industrial growth, ezirina emmotoka nga at least as releasing fumes into the atmosphere. Naye ate oyinza okwekanga bo basabiriza okumala ebbanga ddene. Why is it that within a short run, within a short period, nga tulina actually developing tusanze akaseera akakazigizigi? So that is why we shall look at those effects later on. So we still speak about, you've spoken about the fumes, the industry.
Yes, the industry, of course, harmful industrial agriculture. And so just to tell you that whereas we are a developing country, we are also not the greatest emitters.
Okay.
And so most of the countries in the global south are not the greatest emitters. The greatest emitters are countries in the global north.
Okay.
In the global north, these countries like China, you know, you have the USA, you have those developed countries. Let's just unpack that. And so they're the greatest emitters. The countries that already discovered, you know, fossil fuels, coal and whatever not years ago, and they've been mining it.
So this affects us as well.
Absolutely. And now we pay the heavy price, and that heavy price is not paid generally. There is a demographic category that pays it more. And these are the women.
Oh, Wama. Of recent, I saw some bit of because they were about to release compensation money to the developing countries that were affected by climate change.
Yes, absolutely. It's actually not compensation as such. It's actually paying for loss and damage, because it's a principle in the Paris Agreement that make the polluters pay, and also the principle of first in, first out. And so the polluters need to pay for the losses and damages that, you know, to the developing countries that are as a result of their actions.
Okay.
Yes.
So bwe tweyongerayo ku maaso batubuuliza tugezaako okubeera nga tudiscassinga ensonga eza lwaki obudde bukyuka mu ngeri etali nomo, oba mu ngeri gye tutamanyidde. So omukyala Sheilah Apiny agezaako okubeera nga ate atunnyonnyola ebintu ebimu nti gweoyinza okubeera awo ng'olowooza nti ensi eri mu kkula, naye ng'ate enkula y'ensi ate eri mu kwafekitinga obulamu bwo bwennyinnyini gwe ng'omuntu. Ne geography ono gwe tugezaako okubeera nga tutunuulira embeera ekyukira ddala, n'otunula n'ogamba kati gweyagala nnyo fumes zino, amafuta biki, naye ebyo ebintu bikolebwa mu ziri ensi the first world countries, naye ate omaliriza nga naawe eno kikwafectinga. So y'ensonga lwaki basalawo okubeera nga bo abakyala bawombamu omutwe nga bagamba nti let's take action, n'okubeera nga tetulaba engeri gyesobola okubeera nga tetukibetaringamu, n'okubeera nga kihapening okuba nga kikyukamukko, because I think tebasobola kukola kyonna, but information esinga eba ekutuukako osobola okumanya ki ky'oyinza okuba nga okola, ensonga ne zibeera nga ate zitambulira ddala obulungi. Madam Sheilah, somebody may want to know, why are women more sensitive to the climate change?
Okay, so first, in many societies, including Uganda, you see, women are responsible for most of the household energy, food, water, and care. And so they often face a higher risk and the greater burden from the impacts of climate change in situations of, you know, poverty and due to existing roles and responsibilities, but also cultural norms. And so by the mere fact that already women are a vulnerable group and there's already inequality, and of course the world's poorest are women. So there's already that fact. And then you add onto the climate chaos. So this only deepens the inequalities. And so because society has positioned us as women to be the caretakers of the most of the work. And so, for example, when there is a drought, definitely we will not be able to have our farmlands. When there is a landslide in the Elgon and the flooding year in, year out in the Rwenzori, the women are most affected because of their ability to absorb, to adapt, but also to be resilient because of the challenges that I've just talked about. And so there's a lot of food insecurity at household level. We know that women are mostly responsible for food security at household level. So if the farmlands are affected by the floods, by the droughts, by the heat waves, by the desert locusts, then there is no food. And most times it's the women and children that suffer the most. But also when there's water scarcity, let's draw this home. How many women, how many men, for example, walk to fetch water? So this role has been societally placed that it's a woman's role to fetch water. So in the wake of water scarcity for domestic use, for agriculture, women suffer most because they have to walk long distances. I can tell you it's a very dire situation, and this requires really urgent attention. That in places, for example, like Teso, like West Nile, like Karamoja, and even the Elgon and whatnot, women walk 7 kilometers to look for water. If you get to Karamoja during the dry season, you will see the brunt of the burden that women, have on their shoulders when it comes to looking for water. And the men or the male are simply, seated at home. So the women walk. Now, in that, looking for fuel, for example, you know that society thinks that it's women that need to look for fuel, firewood and charcoal and whatever, because we're a developing nation. About 80% of our households still use, firewood for cooking. And that is the fact. Not most of us can afford electricity and gas. So when they are gathering fuel from the forests, from the trees and woodlots and the shrubs, they are exposed to the risks of gender-based violence and most times sexual harassment. For example, we work in Sebei sub-region, and so we had a scenario where the girls were walking to the forest to look for fuel, to look for firewood, and they were raped. The girls would get into the forest and they were mutilated, FGM forcefully, because then they are in the forest looking for fuel. And so these are the risks that women suffer in the wake of climate change. Women are swimming in Katakwi, swimming to their homes. When there's displacement, that the women are the ones that face issues of social security, issues of their safety. They're not able to access sexual and reproductive health services, especially like antenatal care, because the infrastructure that is leading them up to the hospital, to the health center is broken. So all these have a very heavy impact on women specifically. And so it's very important that we place them at the center of the climate decisions and discussions, because then you cannot discuss what affects us when we're not in the room. So if I'm not in the room, then I'm in the menu. If I'm not on the agenda, then I am in the menu. So what are you people discussing in COP? What are you people discussing at national level? What are you people discussing if women are not given the opportunity to speak about their experiences and realities? And as ActionAid, as we conclude the Climate Justice Week of Action tomorrow and Friday in the symposium, we want to see meaningful participation of women in these discussions and representation.
Okay. Omukyala Sheilah ageza okubeera nga annyonnyola agamba nti byonna ebizibu ebitambulira mu climate change kiri nnyo ku sayidi y'abakyala, nti abakyala be bagenda ne balima be bakima amazzi, abakyala be bagulawo amafuta, abakyala buli kimu ekikwatako abaami emirimu mitono nnyo gye tukola ginene egyafectinga ensonga zinene, era n'agamba abakyala basenya n'enku. So n'agamba nti nno byonna okubeetalinga up tulina kubeera nga abakyala bano bali ku mwanjo, nti lwaki muteesa ku bintu ng'ate abasinga okubonyaabonyezebwa mu situation eyo ate bo bali back, ate abakulembedde bye batamanyi, ogenda okutyaba enku kyekibaayo, abakyala baba rapingidde eyo babatuusizaako obulisa-maanyi, naye ng'ate bo bali mabega. So agamba nti yessaawa nga ba ActionAid nti batuule mu maaso okubeera nga badiscussing ensonga zino n'okubeera nga reaching out the information, n'okubeera nga ate finding solutions to all this that is happening, nga batunuulira okuba nga ati enkyukakyuka y'obudde teyongera nnyo okubeera nga ate etunyigiriza.
Okay. We see that you people are falling victim of the climatic change. Do we say and agree and draw a conclusion that you are not participating in the climatic change?
Well, you see, behind every climate discussion, there are numbers. There's a statistic. There's somebody that is impacted by that discussion. And so if you have about 85% of, for example, the labor force in the agricultural sector being women, doesn't that ring a bell? That if gender inequality coupled with the climate crisis actually are not addressed, then that becomes a global crisis. It's not even just only about Uganda. This situation is only not unique to Uganda. And so does that ring a bell that it's time for us to bring women and empower them and build their capacities so that they're able to build resilience, so that they're able to absorb the shocks of climate change, so that they're able to adapt to the negative impacts of climate change, so that they're able to recover and contribute immensely to the economic indicators. And that is why it's very important for us to then understand that there is no economic transformation without gender equality and climate justice. And that is why we are saying that the aspects of justice must be taken care of in every conversation. And justice looks at fairness, it looks at equity, it looks at, meaningful participation, generally the principles of justice. And by virtue of being human beings, they are entitled, all right, to enjoy the principles of justice. And therefore, for us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we will design them, the National Development Goals, and all these beautiful aspirations without gender equality and climate justice, without women being at the center. You cannot have a majority of your population in poverty, and you people are proudly saying we're moving from this to that. And the indicators, the economic indicators are so beautifully written, yet you have still the majority of the people in your country that are living in poverty. And yet women are still, cooking with using charcoal. So we have no alternative, because then if we are poor, if we're living below $1 a day, and you're telling us to transition, how do we transition if you're not building our skills, if you're not empowering us, if you're not opening up spaces for women to be able to explore their potentials and have these discussions in play? And so give us the space. Give us the space as women, because we are the ones that stay home to cook the food. We are the ones that are doing these roles. And so these gendered roles that are already defined by society need to be zoomed in terms of how do we define our economic indicators.
Omukyala Sheilah agezaako okubeera nga annyonnyola nti gender inequality ne climate change kiragira ddala nti nno biri connected era
feminist.
Yes, you have to be a feminist.
Because at the end of it all, the reason as to why women are called mothers of the nation or the world is because everything starts with them. Just have a reminder that everything that happens in life, a woman comes first. So tukyagenda ddala maaso mu program the breakfast shaka wa women's voice. Atulina omukyala Sheilah Apiny okuva mu ActionAid International Uganda, era nga tugeza okubeera nga tutunuulira ensonga ezo. Awadde ensonga nno essemasonga ezisingira ddala okubeera nga bagamba nti lwaki climate change yeetaaga abakyala.
Njagala tukomewo atubuulire bo tebakoze ekikulu nnyo okubeera nti banoona obutonde bwaffe, kubanga okwonoona obutonde n'abakyala nabo bali nvo.
Kale after this short commercial break tugenda kubeera nga tetukomawo, nawe ojja kuyita ku noti 7554 977 in case you have an inquiry oba okubeera nga tewa submission yo tukomawo.
The search for Miss Uganda 2024 is on. Get ready to be wowed by the girls' intelligence, charisma, and big dreams. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Find out starting 10th May.
MTN Momo's giving you a reason to enjoy the back-to-school season. Skip the long lines, annoying traffic, and running around with bank slips. Pay school fees and more using your... Talk with freedom.
24/7 mu mutima gwa Kampala eno ye 97.7 Record FM tusabula hits all day.
Jericho. Hey, Master Blaster. Touch man. Bang Jericho with muscle. Those ones who say go is for you only. Mundava. First group is I teach you. When I go to which the squad because of the cover is very far. Is you serious? Is serious you? What? Eh? You step it on it. Add kilometers to your legs and you get your sugar. We buy milk from Umaru and Umaru refuse to give you enough meat. Show him that they don't joke with you. Umaru,
A great hustle needs a great push. So, we'll give you the push you need to do more. Together, we're unstoppable.
Bye, Jerryman!
No entertainment without BTV, giving you the entertainment you need. Series.
It's not going to happen.
Movies.
Why so serious? I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
I will find you. And I will kill you.
Music. Music and many more. Watch BTV on Star Times channel 242, antenna decoder, and 483 dish.
BTV. Just be.
97.7 Record FM. 97.7 Record FM. Record FM. Record FM. To Sabla hits all day. All day.
Osmosis is coming.
Osmosis, what's the money? When do you see it? Send him to Momo.
My bossy, can I borrow fuero? Biggie money, can I borrow renty? Manager, give me some caloni. Okay, what about 5K?
When you need a loan, you've got MTN Momo. Wesotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Boom chakala.
Boom chakala, boom chiki, boom chakala, boom chiki, boom chakala, boom chiki, chakala. I drink a rock of boom. Hey.
What you see is what you win. Boom chiki.
Boom chakala.
24/7 Mumutima gwa Kampala eno ye 97.7 Record FM. Record FM.
Tugenze nitwogera ku nsonga ez'abakyala nti balina okubeera nga tebafiibwako kubanga tuzikazinga ku nsonga za climate change balina okuweebwa ebifo ebyokumwanjo nabo babeere nga tebateesa kubanga bali amu ku abo ba victims agenza ayogera ku representation eri very ndowooza eri minimal naye ate nga bandi badde bafuna ekisingako awo naye ate akyankizo nnyo okutegeera nti omuntu yenna bw'oba nga olina ekintu ky'obadde okola bw'oba nga oyagala kutereeza kintu ekyo okirabiridde kwenkana ki. That is why Sheilah twagala otubuulire nnyabo mwe ngammwe abakyala temulina ngeri gye mututuusizza wano we tuli kubeera nti tuyagayaga climate change nti enkyukakyuka y'obudde etuuseewo tuyinza okuba tuli mu kusula eddoboozi ly'abakyala babeere ku bifo eby'omwanjo n'omwenkanonkano nga yetugwagala naye ate mmwe temupuleyinze paati eyo nkyamu okutuusa wano we tuli climatic change eri a negative zitulaba ku ssaawa za kakati.
Okay, so just very quickly, I hope I got the question right. So what roles is that so? Yes, or what does ActionAid do? Is that so?
He's inquiring. He wants to know. You want to be part of the main decision makers and the discussants about how we can better up the climate change and anything. But then he says don't you think, ladies or women, you have also done the bad in this way of the climate changes and the negative side?
I think I don't want to tackle it from
That
that angle,
Okay.
but I just want to look at how we have collective responsibility.
Okay.
Because then, if I'm talking about poor waste management, you cannot say that it's the women that are dropping and littering the city with buveras. No. I think that becomes very, very, very radical in terms of looking at this approach. So we all have collective responsibility, and this is structured and layered, based on what we do in our daily lives. So if we're talking about dropping, plastic bottles around, I mean, this is a collective responsibility. There's already a law that helps us, to be able to dispose of our waste properly. But who does that? I mean, when you walk around Kampala, you'll get disgusted by, I don't know, the number of caveras that are flying all over the city. People are throwing bottles from their cars, from their taxis, and nobody cares. Nobody's taking responsibility to ensure that all of us are conscious of what's happening in our environment. So I don't want to look at that it's the women and so on, because even the agriculture that they do, that they provide 80% of the labor force is not harmful industrial agriculture.
Okay.
So we cannot say that they are the major contributors, no, because the agriculture they do is small scale. Most of the women, first of all, have challenges with access to natural resources like land. And so the agriculture they do is not even on large scale. And so you cannot say that, oh, it is because you people are doing agriculture, you are the greatest emitters. No. And then you cannot also say that, okay, because it's the women that are cooking and therefore they're the ones destroying the forest most. How about the hotels that are carrying loads and loads of fuel, of firewood? Where do you place them? Because women are using 2 or 3. Anyway, so we don't want to apportion who is contributing what, but generally there is a collective responsibility.
Yes. So we are here to see and know what is supposed to be done.
What is supposed to be done. So we need to, first as ActionAid, we are working with partners across the different districts, about the 14 districts or 15 that we are working in this country or more. So we work with partners to deliver our climate change programs. Of course, that's not the only thing that we do as ActionAid. We implement governance programs, transparency and accountability, and centering citizens at to be able to hold their leaders accountable, and also their own responsibility as citizens. But also we have programs around women access to social justice, where we have shelters, gender-based violence shelters. We have a shelter here in Bwaise. And so we are able to, support survivors of gender-based violence, access justice. We shelter them and so on. And then we have climate justice work. So we have those 3 aspects of work that we do in the communities, and of course, young people. So we work through partners, and in these partners are based in these regions. And we work with MEMPRO, for example, that works with women. That works with women and young people and girls in schools and out of school, skilling them. And these are some of the activities now. What do? We need to diversify. If agriculture has been hit hardest, I'm talking about crop, maybe can we do animal? If on farm has been hit hard by the ticks and what, can the women have the skills to do baking? Can the girls have the skills to do tailoring? Can they do hairdressing, so that we are able to address the income struggles that households face through diversification? So we have MEMPRO doing work both in West Nile and in the refugee settlements. We also have community transformation agenda, that is Kota, that we work with directly. These are implementing partners. We also work with Vijana Co here in Mukono. They have a youth hub. They also have the Mbale hub and then the Pakwach hub, trying to close the digital divide, but centering young people at the heart of development, actions or initiatives. And then we have PELAM, Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, Uganda, that is our strategic partner in terms of advocacy, but also because we are partners of PELAM and members of this association, and so building capacity of different CSOs, in different areas. So just quickly, what do? We train young people, we train communities on renewable energy solutions. On renewable and clean energy, like the cook stoves. so that we are able to, if we're saying let's not pounce the forests, let's not use a lot of firewood, what are the alternatives? And for us as ActionAid, we are tackling climate change from an alternative perspective. So cook stoves, carbonized briquettes, and the sticks, the lighting sticks, because most of the people in this country use caveras, which is a very dangerous thing for lighting their cigarettes in the morning. That is so dangerous. The women that are listening to me here, you're inhaling very dangerous substances. You're inhaling chemicals. Please, let's stop lighting the cigarettes, no buvera. Can we replace something, okay? So that we are able to reduce on the health impacts. So we also support, young people and women and the frontline communities to establish agroecological centers. If we are saying that harmful industrial agriculture is primarily a greatest emitter of the greenhouse gas emissions and so on, what are the alternatives? The alternatives here is agroecology. And agroecology, according to the mothers that we have here and all over this country, they may not understand agroecology, is the farming that we used to do. Farming without chemicals. That's what we are saying, Mama. Farming without chemicals. Okay? So don't put chemicals. That is the farming. Be able to grow a lot of crops. We don't, for example, encourage monocropping. Monocropping is just one single. You see in your banana plantation, no take bijanjalo, no take something else. You mix it so that you're able to have quite a lot of food, but also you're able to feed the soil. So the judges know when you pick the beans, what remains, you don't carry it away, you leave it there in the garden, it decomposes, that is manure. That is the type of farming. Okay, we have also been able to facilitate training. So we have 5 agroecological centers established, and these are centers of excellence, and they are in the north and eastern parts of the country. So these are centers of excellence where people come and learn sustainable solutions and are able to transfer them to their farms, improve their yields, and also be able to, to be food secure, increase their household incomes, and so on. We've been able to do a lot of skills training, exposing them through learning visits, but also supporting them to be in different policy making spaces at local level, budget conferences. That today they are reading that they're reading the budget lero banange abachala tugende. That's what we do. Let us go.
I'm loving the feminism approach the ladies are using. Because votunulira byonna omukyala Sheilah byanyonnyola. Omukyala Sheilah tunulira ensi nga buli muntu asobola okujenjoyinga nga human rights ziri wamu nga temuli discrimination nga kwegamba nga the planet kwegamba nga eri healthy and sustainable.
No,
si kungula, but there's a lot of sense to all this, and I think abantu bakiwadde budde, and the media is also not pushing it forward. Nti abantu ba bulijjo bandibadde bategeera all these things, ne tuva mu mind eri ey'okubeera nti no omukyala akole kino, omwami akole kino. But ffenna nga a whole, we can reach out to all this, ebintu byetusobola okubetalinga. Ayogedde ku bintu ActionAid International Uganda byeri mukola okuyambako abaana abo mu masomero, okukola biki n'okutereeza. Kati atuddeko mu nnima eri enkadde mumbi ku bintu ebirina okuba nga bikolebwa. Nti edda baamanyanga nti emmere yonna gy'ogenda okulima eri mu faamu emu, naye kati osanga oli ng'alina banana plantation emu yiika ze 5 n'abeera nga ennyaanya nazo ziri ku half acre, naye n'atamanya nti no singa bino ebintu bibeera birimiddwa wamu, biine engeri gye bidevelopingamu n'ettaka linene, ettaka ne litafa. Ettaka lifa ne tumaliriza nga tugenda kunoonya chemicals okubeera nga tufeedinga ettaka eryo. So agamba nti no bingi ebirina okukolebwa. I think this discussion is too big nti tetusobola na kukimalayo. So but twagala kwebaza ActionAid International Uganda, the approach and whatever they are doing. So omuntu abanga ayagala okubeera nga reaching out because ayinza kukola atya, people that are interested, how can they get in touch with ActionAid International Uganda okumanya ne programming zammwe n'ebiki ebyetaagisa?
So kati first and foremost, we are located around Kansanga. Tuna office Kansanga just opposite KIU. university. So for any information that you require, but 2, we are mobilizing people to join the campaign.
Okay.
We're mobilizing people to join the campaign under Fix the Finance, the hashtag. We'll be able to share with you people so that you're able to spread out to the audience out there.
Yep.
So we have different Twitter spaces. So you can also go to our website. We have a website, www.actionaid.uganda.org. Yes, I think that's the website. And then we also have different shelters across the country, just in case you need to find out more about our gender-based violence work and approach, which we're implementing with Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. So we have a shelter in Bwaise, a shelter in Mubende. We also have a shelter in Ikumi, Katakwi, Kapchorwa, Nebi, Gulu, and every other part of the other country. So we have shelters. If you feel that you need to be supported to access justice as a woman, as a man, actually they're women, they're now called protection shelters. Please get there and you will be supported. But also most importantly is that you can just call me if you need to find out more about this campaign and our activities that we do as ActionAid International Uganda. You can call me on 0779 03 59 11. Yes, so ActionAid Uganda works with quite a lot of people, both government and non-state actors and private sector, to ensure that we have women, we have young people, we have men, and everybody else, play out so that they're able to enjoy their human rights and flourish on a planet that is healthy and sustainable. But of course, looking at how we are closing the poverty gaps as ActionAid, because that is why we exist.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kale barawe bade mukyala Sheilah okuva mu ActionAid International, of course tujja kumweyongeza akadde akalala kuno tulwa tusobola okumugwako ate ku nsonga zitugenda okutanya kuba nange kabere kalowooza eri ffenna ku nsonga ey'obutonde tukwatako ffenna beera nga tuli mu ssale mu kyokubeera nti tugenda kuddaabiriza obutonde ate obeera omu ku abantu abagenda okuteeka wansi climate change ebere nga tegenda kutumalako ebirembe. Beera mu ssaale nnyo mu kubeera nga kyokulaakulanya ensi yo ng'oyita mu climate akubanga ennaku zino evuddeko enduuli tompitirivu nnyo. Kale program the UG Professional akabwero bwetambudde amakya g'olunaku olwaleero, specifically Women's Voice bwero bwetambudde ejja kuddingana butereevu nate lujja kuba lwakusatu olwawiki ate ejja. Zere bwana nsha twagala kubeera nga tetubateera wano tukwase DJ Nick akongereyo mu Hit Lab omubezi. Bwana nsha ajja kudda olweggulo mu big evening ababa then nze naye tujja kuddingana olunaku lujja kuba lwankya ssaawa 12 mpaka sabira ssaawa 4 mu program the UG River Show akawoowo. Twagala tupeetewo wano Brandon.
Era twagala kubagaliza olunaku lulungi, musiibe bulungi mweraba.
Eyo yebadde program The Women's Voice.
97.7 Record FM is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
24/7 mu mutima gwa Kampala. Eno ye 97.7 Record FM. Tusabula hits all day.